So I work as a collections technician for the Natural Sciences Division of the Bishop Museum in Honolulu, Hawaii, although I used to work with sharks, stingrays, and sea turtles for a marine park on the eastern coast of Oahu. And when I tell people this, I invariably get the same response, which is, my God, why? Why would you willingly trade in working with living animals for working with dead animals? And I think this gets to a greater question that natural history museums around the world are facing, which is, why do we exist? What are we doing still here? Beyond the most morbid of curiosities, I think most people are not entirely sure what our purpose is in the 21st century. I like to think that natural history museums collectively act as the Fort Knox of biology, which is to say that for every single species you can think of, there's literally one specimen in a museum somewhere that acts as the gold standard for that entire species. All of the scientific information about that species is in some way linked up to that specimen and its constituents within other museums around the world. So how do we convey this importance to a global audience? Well, I think that we actually have an incredible weapon at our disposal within natural history museums, which is when we go out and do our collecting, we're typically doing something that's interesting, crazy, or a combination thereof. And we can use this through social media platforms and blogs to hook people into the digitization process from the get-go. Because for us, digitization begins at the point of collection. It's where we do most of our really important metadata generation. So for example, if you were to follow Sonia Raleigh, who's one of our deep sea explorers, down 500 feet, she goes outside of a submersible in an area that's almost entirely unexplored by science, or anybody for that matter, and she's taking pictures of the surrounding area, she's taking pictures of the specimen she's collecting, she's taking pictures of a paddle that has GPS and temperature and depth on it. She's bringing all this analog and digital stuff back up to the surface where a team is standing by to link all of it together under one QR code and a universally unique identifier. In many cases, this team is witnessing the analog death and digital birth of a specimen take place within the same 60 seconds. Now, when we bring the specimens to the museum, we typically do not show people what we do with them because, let's face it, the preparation process is kind of disgusting. I think we need to change this, though. We really need to be transparent about how we do business. So in the case of this Hawaiian hawk, where we might show you traditionally the mount, the skin, and the skull, I would like to also show you that we skin and gut the hawk. We will freeze-dry its flesh and feed that flesh to our domestic beetle colony so we can get at the bones underneath. And we might macerate and bake the bones. If we get at the stomach contents, we absolutely will. We have an entire room that is filled with nothing more than the contents of animal stomachs. Why wouldn't we? This is so we can understand what these animals are eating as well as what sorts of parasites might have been living in their gut. And as gory as all of this may be, it serves a real important purpose. And that is to give us these data sets that we wouldn't otherwise have. And when we make these available around the world, then researchers can use them and answer some fundamental big picture questions. Because the fact is, you can't answer worldwide questions about global warming, species degradation, or habitat destruction without making these sorts of data sets available for everybody. They help us do everything from save the Hawaiian hawk and the Big Island to tracts of rainforest and coral reef in a place as far away as Papua New Guinea, where the Bishop Museum has actually a collaborative relationship with villages to safeguard tracts of land against mining and logging, so that paying scientists can come in, take specimens from that land, digitize those specimens in a way that makes sense to researchers all around the world, so that we can collectively, as a community, come together and inform the next iteration of wildlife management for that Papua New Guinea tract of land. Now, we also have a lot of other specimens that act as, what I like to say is they're prop specimens more than scientific, such as this brown tree snake from Guam. It's completely decimated that island's bird population. It's easier for us to show you a picture of this guy than it is for us to show you a raw data set. It just hits home more. We also have a lot of specimens that are more icon than scientific cadavers, such as this whale, which has been in our Hawaiian Hall for over 100 years. It's the first thing people see when they walk through the door, and it makes for excellent online branding material. We also have a lot of specimens that we're not entirely sure what to do with, such as this bell jar, which was created in the late 1800s, and beyond scientific value, it was created more for aesthetics than anything else. But when we were digitizing it, we realized this is actually an incredible story of avian endemism and extinction throughout the Hawaiian Islands. And we can link the birds in that bell jar up to some of our artifacts of Hawaiian royalty that are composed almost entirely of feathers. These are the sorts of connections you make when you embrace accessibility and transparency. And in my opinion, this is exactly how natural history museums around the world are going to transform ourselves into powerhouses of scientific innovation and wonder. You guys are awesome.